Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Good afternoon to our distinguished guests from the Ministry of Education. The Minister of Education, Dr. Jallah, is here today. Many strides have been made to improve the education sector in Liberia, and the person who's driving all of those efforts is no other but our distinguished Minister of Education. She requested to appear on the national platform because there are important updates to be provided to you, members of the press. I cannot let the cat out of the bag before she mounts the podium. So I'll just, daily basis, she comes to provide you very important updates. She's here with a very huge delegation. She will make the proper introduction of members of our delegation, but before I invite the Honorable Minister of Education to the podium, let me just speak to a few issues that are happening in the country, and we've all been following. The other day we talked about the level of professionalism in the Liberia National Police. And we indicated that the police is endeavoring to maintain that level of professionalism, maintain a cordial relationship with the public, so that people can trust the work that the police is doing. Against that backdrop, we like to emphasize a certain administrative action that was taken by the Liberia National Police. They have investigated the unlawful entry and the opening of the vehicle belonging to District Number 10 Representative Jacket Koruba and those involved in the acts. Inspector of Police Frank P. Bender, his badge number is here, and Sergeant Sam C.F. Kabab, his badge number is also here. They have been suspended. The Chief Inspector of Police, Frank P. Bender, is suspended for 2 months without pay. And Sergeant Sam C.F. Kabab has also been suspended for 1 month without pay for unlawfully opening the vehicle of Honorable Koruba. This is a manifestation of the LNP determination to ensure that there can be no room for unprofessional conduct in the LNP. And that determination goes across, regardless of who is involved, that disciplinary acts will fall on you. So yes, the 2 officers have been suspended. The investigation was initiated by the Professional Standard Division of the Liberia National Police. And they determined the outcome I have just announced to you. And so the 2 officers have been suspended, one for 2 months without pay and the other for 1 month without pay. We will keep following the Liberia National Police to bring you important updates because the police is our friend. We've also been following development with the National Food Authority. A couple of days ago, the management, the government of Liberia renegotiated a very controversial deal, the CTA deal. That renegotiation has seen massive increase of revenue to the government of Liberia. And so far, the feedback from the public has been very positive. But they are not stopping there. The government of Liberia, through the National Food Authority, is now getting ready to review the concession agreement with the government of Liberia has with the APM terminal. That agreement, that concession is for 25 years, and this is the first time since 2010 that concession will be reviewed. This breakthrough alliance with the concession the government of Liberia has with the APN terminal, and the goal is to address current economic realities, which is a cardinal focus of the government. The National Food Authority, under the leadership of Managing Director Siku H. Dupley, is doing everything to ensure that food management in Liberia can reflect the realities of our time, and that the government of Liberia can benefit from all of these agreements. The Ministry of Agriculture is collaborating with rice importers to establish a $30 million rice processing facility in the country. This initiative is aimed at boosting local rice production and to also ensure that the country can become food sufficient. The Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Elizana Muta, last week visited local rice processing facility being constructed by Supplying West Africa Traders Incorporated, SWAT. Additionally, this modern facility will improve rice processing, packaging, and market availability, thus helping to reduce our reliance on imported rice. What does it mean for Liberia? A stronger market for locally grown rice, increased opportunities for smallholder farmers, more affordable and high quality rice for Liberians, and a step forward to ensuring food sufficiency. This investment is a major step towards strengthening Liberia's security and boosting economic growth. It is important to note that Liberia currently imports 300,000 metric tons of rice annually, costing the country $200 million. Through the Liberian Free Yourself agenda, the Ibaga-led administration aims to reduce rice importation by 70% over the next 5 years. The Ministry of Public Works has commenced the rehabilitation of roads across 63 communities in Mossorada County, Magiri, and Bomi. The project is part of the government of Liberia's commitment to alleviate difficulties experienced to the people during travels. Too often than not, past government has largely focused on major roads with little attention given to community roads that directly affect the everyday lives of Liberians. The project, which is 103 kilometers of roads to be rehabilitated, a total of 238 culverts are to be installed across different communities during the course of this project. The Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation continues to work. But yesterday there was an interesting conversation on one of the radio stations. And one of the reporters had reported that the facility in Bogolu was not working, and that it will be supplying water for 30 minutes a day to the people in a part of the country. What the management of the LWC tells us is that facility is up and functioning contrary to the information provided by that reporter of that news entity. I will not call their name. But that when a facility is built and dedicated is one thing, but to ensure that customers who run businesses, their private homes, get connected to that facility is another process. And so, right now the LWC got engineers in the county and they're working to connect businesses and homes to the water facility. So what they are doing now is to provide water on a free of charge basis for 2 hours every day to the community. You don't pay for it. Of course, when your house is connected, your business is connected, you are going to pay for the services. But while the connections are ongoing, they are providing water on a free of charge basis to the people of Ogun City. Also, the Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation has announced a temporary 50% waiver on outstanding water bills to all customers with debts accrued up to December 31st, 2023. The waiver applies only to customers with outstanding balances of US 100 or its equivalent in Liberian dollar and above the specified period. To qualify, customers must pay 50% of their total arrears in full. This decision, we are told, is based on a board resolution at the board of the LWC, and it applies at all categories of water customers, household businesses, and institutions. The waiver program will run for 3 months, that is from March 26 to June 26, 2025. As we are all aware, the government continues to seek opportunities, galvanize the resources, working with international partners to expand the energy sector. And while others are shutting the doors on undeveloped countries, there are other countries that are working with us to ensure that they can invest in strategic sectors to address our needs. One of those sectors that the government prioritizes a whole lot is the energy sector. And so yesterday, the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Honorable Augustine Gafwan, led a joint monitoring team comprising of the European Union delegation to Liberia on a 5-day visit to Buchanan, Greenville, Grand Bassa County, and Greenville, Sandwich County. And the intent of the visit is to monitor the implementation of the rural electrification program that prioritizes the southeast of Liberia. The project is commonly known as Light Up Southeast, the Loose Project. The visit is to ensure that the people living in the southeast cities of Buchanan, Greenville, Bagleyville get access to reliable and affordable electricity for economic viability, development, and prosperity. The project is being fully funded by the European Union, we are told. It is being sponsored by a 43 million grant that is being provided by the European Union. The LIDAR project targets an estimated 12,054 customers that will be connected on both single and 3-phase prepaid meters in the city's name. 4,340 households will be connected in the cities of Greenville, as well as 43 kilometer routes of said transmission lines for the 2 megawatts in mini hydro power plants will be constructed on the Sando River in Greenville. In addition to the electric projects, the city of Greenville had initially been energized by an 850 kilowatt solar power plant in Murrayville near Greenville with a supported backup generator of 820 kV. The second energy source embarked to support the electricity generation capacity of the power consumption in Greenville City will consist of a 2 megawatt hydro plant to be constructed on the Sando River. In Bagneville, Brentwood County, a construction of a solar PV plant and mini grid network with solar home system on the outskirts of the city. These developments are important to be highlighted because it is good for our country. If we can be able to make energy affordable, then all of the investment that we create for us as a country will be able to come here and the jobs will be created for our people. Don't forget, the President in his annual message indicated that the goal of the government moving forward is to connect at least 100,000 homes to the national grid. That process is ongoing, and we are hoping to accomplish all of these things to get our country working, to make the country a better place. Just lastly, I have to say that we will continue to insist that every Liberian citizen, be he a private citizen or public citizen, you have the obligation to portray a positive image for your country. On this platform, we have talked about Liberia's bid for the non-permanent seat on the U.S. Security Council. And when the government initiated that bid, we called on stakeholders in the country, former leaders, to support the agenda. One of the former leaders who have taken that call, who have heeded that call, and is running with it, is former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She's leading that campaign for Liberia, and as a government, we appreciate her for her commitment to ensuring that this country can always be projected from a positive perspective in the international scene. There was a statement issued yesterday by the former president, for reason best known to himself. Few hours after he posted it, he deleted it. But we have to say that the content of that statement are misleading, because as far as we know, the by-election in MICAT County is on course. There are brothers and sisters who are contesting that election. The government has provided the necessary financial support to the National Election Commission to ensure that the elections can be conducted in keeping with law. There have been no incident of violence reported so far, and hopefully there will be none. Where the former president got his news that voters are being intimidated in MICAT County, and that the government is doing everything to undermine the credibility of the election, we don't know where he gets his information from. But as a ministry that speaks for the government of Liberia, we have to refute those allegations. They are unfounded. And also I have to say that it is very unfortunate that as the former president of the country, you concern yourself so much with the negative aspects. Every time you speak, it's about highlighting negativity. The court indict former officials who are believed to be corrupt. to account for the action, we call press conference and say that people are witch hunting them and that you resist it. When a by-election is ongoing in Lima County and you see the campaign is on course, everybody going about delivering a message to the voters, we chose to go meet with the UN resident coordinator to present a distorted picture of the level of progress that the country is making. It is very much unfortunate. They call you, come and support Liberia bid to be elected on the non-permanent security council. You say no. You on Facebook dancing my head, my neck. You go to the UN, you say somebody tried to undermine democracy and intimidating voter. The former leader of the country cannot be making sweeping statements. When you speak, people expect you to be substantive. And you post on your official profile. And then after the public backlash, you delete the post. That is unbecoming of a former leader. We do not intend to use this platform to denigrate any former leader. And that is why we have repeatedly said that people who have led this country, who have had the opportunity to provide direction for us, whether they succeeded or not, they have to be above the fray. Be above the fray. Do not try to portray a negative image of this country because you are not in power. Of course, we know what happened in the Southeast. How some of the numbers that came after the election, even the election commission system rejected the numbers. We know what they did with the election results in the Southeast. But the pendulum of power has shifted. This government is more committed to sustaining the peace and nurturing the democracy of the country. We do not intend to do anything that would jeopardize the integrity and the credibility of the electoral process. So the insinuation by the former president that voters are being intimidated by the government in Lima and that the election is characterized by what he believes to be violent, those claims are unfounded, and we call on our international partners not to take him seriously because the story he's telling are clearly motivated by his political objective. They do not represent the facts on the ground. The election in Lima will be supported by international partners. They provide support. There will be civil society organizations that will monitor the electoral process in Lima. And the fact that they have not reported any form of violence, it is unacceptable for the former president to be telling the half truth, to be telling a story that don't represent the facts. I have to say that because the democratic credential of this government will not be questioned by people who came here and successfully bastardized the reputation of Africa's oldest independent republic. It's not going to happen. I'm trying to set a record straight. With that being said, let me now invite to the podium Dr. Jallah, the Minister of Education, to make a presentation. After her presentation, we'll take questions from you, members of the press. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Minister Gerald McPia and the SMT team. I am here today to brief the nation along with my senior management team, Deputy Minister of Administration, Attorney Yeke Fopa, Deputy Minister Dr. Samuel To, Planning, Assistant Minister Teacher Education, Mr. Kona Clifford, Assistant Minister Thomas Momopaka, Assistant Minister of Planning, Assistant Minister Bassam Howard Yiswa, Assistant Minister for ECE, Early Childhood Education, of course my Chief of Staff, Mr. Abraham Diger, and our Director of Communications, We call him the town crier for the Ministry of Education. They've all joined me today. I think I see Clearview back there, supports our planning team. And we've come to deliver some critical information that the public needs to know in terms of our latest activities and achievements at the Ministry of Education. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, fellow citizens, I'm happy to be with you today in this historic hall once again. It is with much pleasure and thanks to the vision of His Excellency President Joseph Boakai, the hard work of the team at the Ministry of Education, and the collaboration with the Civil Service Agency and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. I'm happy to announce that we have created the fiscal space to transition 56% of volunteer teachers to government payroll. Pillar 6 of the ARREST agenda for inclusive development acknowledges the role of volunteer teachers as being an integral part of the education system. This is a key intervention captured in Program 41 of the AAID, Governance of the Education System, which speaks to this administration's view that volunteer teachers and their services are needed, they are important, and they are valued. To this end, 56% of all qualified volunteer teachers are going to be transitioned to the payroll this year. We are so grateful to the President for his leadership in this regard. You will recall that during my first press briefing, I talked about the need for quality education. You cannot have quality education without qualified teachers, motivated teachers, and respected teachers. So it's been over a year. We inherited a system laden with complex challenges of unimaginable proportions, where a lot of our teachers were underpaid or not paid, for which I will elaborate on later. We have several people that are trained, working and sweating every day, who are not being compensated in any shape or form in our classrooms nationwide. Therefore, upon the conclusion of my nationwide tour, one of the first things I did was to conduct a nationwide profiling exercise of volunteer teachers. As part of this exercise, we were able to understand who they were, where they were, what their credentials were, and the subjects they were teaching, and so on and so forth. Subsequently, there was a need to verify and to understand indeed their credentials, whether their credentials submitted were accurate and valid, and whether they were legitimate. It has always been our commitment to ensure that those who are working hard in our classrooms are taken care of. The initial profile of volunteer teachers showed 6,190 volunteer teachers. But we realized that out of that number, 1,520 did not have any teaching credentials. In other words, they were not qualified and were not credentialed with either an A, B, or C certificate, nor a post-secondary degree. Hence, the next step we undertook was a comprehensive internal audit. And so after that audit, we realized that there were 3,557 volunteer teachers credentialed in active service. And so our total list is 3,557, from which we subsequently proceeded. And that number, we have created the fiscal space to transition 2,000 volunteer teachers to payroll, and 2,000 constitutes 55.9 That is 56% of volunteer teachers. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this has not been an easy task. Imagine the enormity of this task. My team and I have worked tirelessly, which required constant collaboration with our supporting agencies, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, and the Civil Service Agency, along with CEOs and DEOs and the MOE Central Office team. So with that, there is going to be a process to which these 2,000 volunteer teachers are going to be transitioned. Beginning immediately, our team from tomorrow will be in the field conducting the process as follows: registration, interview, submission of credentials, completion of personnel action forms, and signing of a training contract. By the 30th of April, the process will be completed. The CSA will then have them on payroll, and they will begin to have their compensation. The next topic I'm going to elaborate is the salary top-ups. I believe some weeks ago, the Minister of Finance shared information in that regard. When we took over, we had over 9,000 of our hardworking teachers and non-teaching staff underpaid. And lest I forget, also included was some non-teaching staff. I'm here to announce that all underpaid teachers on government payroll, for which the MOE Office of Human Resources has a record of your credentials and qualifications, have received salary top-ups. When we took office a year ago, nearly 70% of the teacher workforce of MOE were underpaid, meaning they were not being compensated based on the civil service structure, salary structure. As we speak, 9,271 of the 13,001 teaching workforce on the MOE payroll who were underpaid have received salary top-ups. This restructuring reflects the ministry's commitment to enhancing the livelihoods of teachers and elevating education standards across the country. I would like to express my gratitude to my team, especially those in the Department of Administration, headed by Deputy Minister Attorney Yeke Fokpa, Assistant Minister Jonathan Jackson, Director of Human Resources, Mr. Josephus Mite, and his team. This team has worked tirelessly with the Civil Service Agency and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. This is an all-government approach to ensuring that we take care of our teachers and educators. When we say we value teachers, we really mean it. It's not in words, but it's in action. As they say in Latin, facta non verba, meaning action, not words. This restructuring reflects the ministry commitment to enhancing the livelihood of teachers and elevating education standards across the country. Again, thanks to all those who have helped to make this possible. And with that, I'll take questions.
So, if you have any questions, please form a question. And please remember one question to a journalist or a speaker. That is if we have a question for the center. So, introduce yourself and the institution you report from.
Okay, thanks so kindly. I'm Ishmael M. Logan. I work for Pons Radio Liberia. I have two questions. One to Mr. Samuel and the next to Dr. Jarso Jallah. Mr. Samuel, the government said by February, between February and March, there will be the construction of the interchange and ministerial complex. Liberians are concerned on the start of this project. Are we on course? Because we have about 6 days for it's going to end. So what can we say to that in relations to the construction of the interchange? And to Dr. Jarso Jallah, thanks so kindly for the different reform mechanisms the team and the ministry are rolling out. But in the course of this week, we're following a situation involving the MCSF students. They are protesting over what they term as unpaid arrears to their teachers. And you came to address the nation. We didn't hear much of that. Is it concern to the ministry? And what are some of those different steps been taken to have that situation resolved? Thank you.
Thank you so great. I want to say many thanks and appreciation to the family of MICAT and to our dear Minister. Madam, thank you so much for the help explanation. So my name is James M. Bala and I report for Brother Joy Africa and my MICAT. Madam, thank you so much. But one thing I want to know is the recruitment exercise is one thing that is us across we are in the rural area of the country. But there is issues of salary when it comes to people who take place in our institution. There is a story called push. There are people who work in the Ministry of Education. Some of them are yet to receive their salary to the delegating institutions when it comes to the push. What is the Ministry of Education doing in making sure that those teachers whose salaries are not coming through get them, so that we will not be joining other work with them? Thank you. And my other questions go to the Minister, Mr. Kanye Asa. Our Minister, thank you so much for the explanation this morning. But one question I want to ask is, the issue that has to do with the suspension of the officers. These officers were acting on behalf profile of government officials who their mandate is more than their bosses. So what will be the consequences if you suspend them and do reported them? What is the penalty? Thank you.
So my name is Joseph Selim and I report for ABC Radio. Our first question goes to the Minister of Education. Madam Minister, we went on the nationwide country tour. You can give us a picture of the infrastructure of schools across the country. And my last question goes to Minister Daniel Sano. When Liberia Vice President endorsed or candidate in Nima that said something against women, that discriminating women and endorsing that woman, don't you think that's a form of intimidation in Nima County? Thank you. A few weeks ago, Liberia Vice President Jeremiah Pampon endorsed Representative Samuel Kuka, who said something against a female in Nima County. Don't you see that as a form of intimidation, discrimination against a woman? Thank you.
And so my name is Manu Bukulu. I want to say thank you to the Minister of Education. You sound like an educator, but I want to remind you of this thing. Most of the young people don't understand the Constitution of this country, and the Constitution is to provide that. It should be taught in school so that we can understand our law in order to be on par. Since you sounded so eloquent, what is your take, about teaching this Constitution in school so that we can be aware of our laws? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Steve Ramos and I report for the Liberia State Agency. A few other questions for the Education Minister. The first question is, recent time when Togo was since last year as Minister of Education, there were reports that there were changes of CEOs assigned to federal counties in Liberia. Some of these CEOs claim that you did not reassign them. I mean, they were taken from that job, no assignment, there was, just around the issue. So no assignment, they even take the issue at the level of the court. Where are we in terms of handling that matter? Another issue would be in recent time, the president passed a mandate on the One Child, One Chair project. I mean, there was a mandate that all of those suspended government officials, money be remitted to that project. Can you tell us as to how much have you received, and how is this money going to be spent, and how is it going to affect schools of rural counties in Liberia? Another concern could be.
One question you asked to.
All right. Mr. Minister, thank you. I'm Marius Tepe, and let me say thanks to our Education Minister. Thank you very much. Our voice is challenged. We have people of different categories. We have disability and people who struggle with our challenges. I want to know whether your decision to transition, or the government decision to transition 2,000 volunteer teachers on the payroll, I want to know whether it is inclusive. If yes, do you care telling us some of the statistics? Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. My name is Desmond Moyon, and I report for Democracy Watch. Thanks so kindly, Madam Minister. My concern specifically is to the top up, especially with no instructors complaining of being unpaid. You spoke about the top up, but you didn't care to tell us how much is that money in figure that you are tapping up, and what was that specific mechanism used in terms of tapping up all of those instructors? It is based on credentials, or is it on general consensus? And how much is the figure? And to Minister Pia, Minister Sando, the government through the Liberia National Police had released talking about the suspended officers that you, and that is a great strike. But that influenced a complaint filed by an honorable lawmaker, not just about the forceful intrusion into his vehicle. We also alleged about massive attempts that were, placed into his vehicle. But the reports of LMP are just going through the official release, suggesting to the officer being suspended based on the preliminary investigation from the Professional Standard Division. What becomes of those massive attempts into the vehicle of the honorable man? Thank you.
My name is Joseph Sally, I report for Lata TV. Joseph Sally from Lata TV. Madam Jarso, thanks so much for the update. Last week, we took our microphone over Manili County to a place called Lawsville. We're at the back of the airport. And the public school is there is facing zero talent. Students are still sitting on breaks. I don't know whether you are aware of it. And to Minister Sando, the issue of Fadiga being appointed, confirmed, went to Paris and was rejected by the French government. And up to now, the government has not made any position statement. So as a government spokesperson, can you bring us up to speed with that information? Thank you.
Thank you, those are all the questions.
Thank you for those insightful questions. When you're having press briefing, you give the highlights and you wait for the journalists to intrigue you with their questions, and then you provide more insight. I think it was Ishmael Logan who asked the first question about MCSS and the current situation that's unfolding. It is of concern to the ministry, as the ministry is the custodian of supervision of education across the nation, and also by my role as vice chair on the board of MCSS. It has been brought to our attention that the students have taken to protest on the advisement that their teachers have not been paid. Let me send this strong warning to those who will use our students to fight their battles. We are not going to take this sitting down, because our children need to be in the classroom. They need to be educated. We owe them that much. As the vice chair of the board, we held an emergency meeting yesterday looking at several other concerns in addition to what's unfolding. And we've come to understand that students have been used as a ploy because teachers have left the classroom, and of course is not identified whether or not these are government paid teachers on the NCSS payroll or volunteer teachers. Let me remind you, the NCSS, if you access the budget for NCSS, 4.2 million is allocated to the operations of NCSS, with 3.9 million going to pay salaries. So there should be no reason for teachers not being in the classroom. And that we are investigating closely. I spoke with the IG this morning, as well as the superintendent. In addition to the IG, we are not going to rest until we find the culprits that have our children in the streets. We owe it to them to ensure the classroom is nurturing and is a place that they can go and learn. James Mulwa, he talked about the recruitment exercise. I think some nomenclature around push, that they're yet to receive salary. Forgive me, I'm not aware of what that is, but I can tell you that those that are supposed to receive their salaries are receiving their salaries, and if there are incidences where people have not, I don't work in they say, I work in facts and figures. I'm a pragmatist. So if one has not received their salaries, please notify the Office of the Deputy Minister for Administration, and we will address that promptly. Joseph Sirleaf, you spoke about, asked about my nationwide tour and wanted me to share insight on infrastructure. During the tour, we did see, when I said in my opening, we took over and there were complex challenges that we observed across the country. Infrastructure was one of the paramount things that we noticed. And to makeshift schools that are just, mud, not even brick, some not with proper roofing. But my answer to what we saw was one coming back and engaging and instructing the Department of Planning to undertake an assessment to see and determine what schools needed quick impact infrastructure repair, and we've done that. We've been able to complete the assessment of infrastructure. We've identified schools across the country that will receive civil works renovation in several stages, quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. In our AAID, there are tracking mechanisms to improving school infrastructure. So these are targets that we are focused on delivering, and through our systematic process in reviewing, identifying, and making the funding available to schools and school districts and holding them accountable for those schools that funds have been dispersed for renovation. We are not going to rest. I have the team in the field constantly ensuring that what the Liberian people deserve they will get, especially in our rural areas that are often forgotten. Sorry, I didn't get this person's first name, Mobondo. Say that again? Thank you. You spoke about understanding the Constitution and our students, the need for our students to understand the Constitution. If you look at our curriculum, it requires review. And this year, we should begin that process of a curriculum review. And in that process, these are all the elements that we're going to consider. Not only the Constitution, but students being able to critically think and solve problems. So problem-based learning helps you think critically and answer questions to complex challenges. So in review of our curriculum, those are the things, including civics, that we're going to consider in the curriculum review, which is to commence this year. Stephen Roberts asked about CEOs reassignment, and for those that were not reassigned, they went to court. Let me set the record straight. That is misinformation and incorrect information of the unfolding of that process. CEOs who were not selected after the recruitment process, the competitive recruitment process, were reassigned. That activity was handed to the Deputy Minister of Administration, and we were able to reassign those that did not meet the competitive recruitment eligibility criteria. In respect to the court activities, there were a group of district education officers who turned their union, aggrieved, took the ministry to court on a certain process. And there's a ruling about the ministry formulating and establishing school boards across the country. And when I say we inherited complex problems, that again is one of the complex problems. We did not have constituted school boards or district school boards across the country. And that's an activity, again, the ministry is embarking, so that within the next few weeks, we will have established school boards across the country to help manage the school system at the county level. Stephen, you also asked about the one chair, one child. How much have we received? The Ministry of Education, and first of all, we want to thank the President yet again for his commitment to education, not only in words, but in his actions. There are a plethora of other things that are on his desk for which funding could be applied. But because he understands education is important, and if you look at Liberia's Human Development Index, that speaks to the challenge that we must solve as a nation. And so this one chair, one child policy, as developed as a presidential initiative and being funded by the funds from non-compliant officials of government who have not declared assets, the CSA is the custodian of those checks, not the Ministry of Education. We are working in collaboration with our astute Director General in person of Dr. Josiah Jokai. And once we convene, we will then make public the next steps on how the procurement process is going to ensue, what schools will select based on need for seating. We know we've conducted at the level of the ministry an assessment of seating capacity across schools based on enrollment. So the ministry is in custody of that, and we're going to use that as one of the tools to help us address and achieve the One Chair, One Child initiative. Larry S. David asked about inclusion, and my heart was happy, because that means inclusion is on the minds of each and every one of us. That in our society, we cannot leave anyone behind. And this is emanating from not only our AAID, but the ministry's priorities. And the fact that we have a target in the AAID that 10% of our students who are persons with disabilities will be migrated or transitioned into traditional schools, so that we learn to engage with folks who have disability. Sometimes the disability is unseen, but yet a student may have a learning need. So we have made sure that to start this process with inclusion, we must first teach our teachers how to teach and how to engage with students with disabilities, whether it's physical disabilities or invincible disabilities, such as learning needs like dyslexia, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADD, attention deficit disorder. So there's a spectrum, or autism. These young students need to be engaged, and that is part of our plan in our focus to inclusive education. Desmond Bayan asked, and you asked about statistics. Unfortunately, I don't have statistics to share, but I can make that available. But I speak with the confidence that girls and inclusive education is my number one priority. And it's clearly indicated in the AAID, where it speaks of the number of students that we have to migrate, so that we don't segregate. We as a nation do not keep segregating people with disabilities to learn in a different environment, but then when they learn, now we have to incorporate them. And I would say that Ministry of Education is not only speaking, but we're acting. We have persons with disabilities on our staff. This is our commitment to inclusion. Desmond Leon asked about the top-up and how much the credentials were. Regarding that, we were able to, as I said, 9,271 folks were migrated, and we migrated them by certificates. And the top-ups, I'm sorry, not migration, I'm missing the two. The top-ups happened by certificates. So by civil service standard, if you were if you were a C certificate holder, you were to make $185. If you were B certificate, you were to earn $210. If you were a bachelor's degree holder, you were to earn $400. If you were a master's degree holder, you were to earn $550. So along those lines is how the top-ups were carried out. One category of credential I left out was associate's degree. The associate's degree and B certificates fall in the same category at $210. So with that said, I think I've responded to all the questions asked. Thank you for the opportunity to engage and provide the nation with updates that are pertinent to the work of the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister.
I think I left out one question. I think that it wasn't much of a question, but a comment about whether or not I was aware of the issue with Louisville. I would say in principle we are, because we have done assessment. Our CEOs have completed assessments of seating capacity across our public schools and the classrooms, enrollment versus the number of seats that we have. So in principle, yes, we are aware, and we are making, not only in addition to the one chair, one child policy, procurement process is ongoing to procure seating as we speak. Thank you.
I will now respond to the questions as they were directed to the Ministry of Information. We can't keep saying the same thing over and over. We announced that the construction of the overpass should have started in February. The projection of the engineers from the Ministry of Public Works, based upon which this announcement was made, was that the structures in the way would have been cleared. People who got properties have been settled, and the demolition exercise has self-concluded. But beyond those physical structures, the telecommunications companies, they have some installation beneath the surface. And without them being allowed to remove those installations, the work cannot be done. So we are already working with them. The LWC also has some installation in the corridor. The resources I'm told have been provided. And once they remove the cables from there, the work will be done. The engineers from China, they are already here. The site where they will be hosted has already been given to them. And the only problem right now is the removal of those cables from beneath the surface. That will be concluded. But beyond that, the work is supposed to start anytime from now, because everything that we needed to do as a government has been done, except that we didn't capture or contemplate that the telephone companies would have had something in that corridor that has to be handled with care. So that's a quorum for the work, but we're getting indication from the Ministry of Public Works that the funds have been provided and those cables will be removed so the work can be done. James, you asked about the suspended officers and what happened to the person who authorized them to take the action. Do you have any clue of who authorized them? They work for the police. The police is a paramilitary institution. So if you go there, if you work with the police, you take instruction from the head of your unit. Do you have any information to show that the head of the unit ever instructed them to go and break into the vehicle of the honorable man? So they have to be investigated, and they have been investigated by the Professional Standard Division. What the police try to do as much as possible is to distinguish the unprofessional conduct from those ethical values that the institution stands for. So I said we want to prove that contrary, but they are all from the police. Even if you are assigned to a specific entity or branch of government, you still work for the police. And whatever action you take, as far as enforcing the law is concerned, must come from your superior. Samuel Koga's statement, I've not listened to that statement, so I can't speak to it. But I really do believe, and we appreciate for you to follow what I said. I said the former president didn't provide any indication, he didn't state any example of the threat, intimidation, and violence that he's talking about in the Lima by-election. He didn't provide anything about that. He just made a statement which was then deleted after a few hours when he posted it. So I've not listened to the statement made by Senator Poka. I know that the Vice President endorsed Mr. Poka on a radio station, and the endorsement was similar to previous endorsement a politician received in the election. He was very calm. When I spoke with him last night, he said there's no violence have been reported in Nimba, and those that are contesting the election are all brothers and sisters. The election is between sons and daughters of Nimba. And while we want to look up for this kind of information so that the government can make intervention, but we also have to ensure that what we are bringing out to the public, especially to our international partners, represent the facts. When you have a situation where everybody is going about their own campaign, nobody is being intimidated, the civil society, the election, monitoring organizations are there, they are not reporting anything. So we were kind of the widow for the former president to be making those insinuations. Desmond talked about the missing items from the people of the lawmaker. When you read the report published by the LMP, what did it say? Let me read it for you. It said the Professional Standard Division investigation primarily considered allegation of police impropriety raised by Honorable Yekewa Koruba, who reported the loss of cash amounting to 25,000 United States dollars, 2 million Liberian dollars, and other valuable items, including one computer, one iPhone, and jewelry valued at 2,500 United States dollars. The PSD has recommended the following and further action.